I used to think betrayal would feel like a knife between the ribs, quick, sharp, and unforgettable. But as I stood in the middle of my kitchen that night, watching my wife dress for someone else, I realized the truth was far worse. Betrayal wasn't a blade. It was staring into the eyes of a stranger who wore the face of the woman you thought loved you. 7 years of marriage. That's how long Claire and I had been building a life together. Vacations, shared dreams, savings accounts, late-night takeouts, ugly sweatpants, inside jokes, everything. I thought love meant permanence. I thought we meant something. I was wrong. That Tuesday started like any other. I pulled into our driveway at the same time I always did, 6:47 p.m. I'd been coming home at the same time ever since I'd been promoted to systems engineer at the firm. Familiar routine, familiar rhythm. But as soon as I stepped inside, I knew something was different. Claire stood in the kitchen, facing away from me, her silhouette framed by the soft overhead lights. She was wearing that emerald green dress, the one I gave her on our 5th anniversary. Her hair was perfect, makeup immaculate, and the scent in the air was not the vanilla she always wore, but something crisp and unfamiliar. "You look amazing," I said with a hopeful smile. "Special dinner plans?" Then she turned. There was no smile, no warmth, just a kind of indifferent resolve in her eyes. "We need to talk, Adrian." 5 words. That was all it took to change the trajectory of my life. Within 5 minutes, I was being told to leave my own home. No argument, no discussion, just a cold, final directive. I asked the obvious questions. What's going on? What happened? The answers were vague. We've grown apart. People change. She said the words like she'd rehearsed them in a courtroom mirror. But then came the tells. The anxious glances at her phone. The way her body was angled toward the door. Then it hit me. "There's someone else," I said. Not as a question. It didn't need to be. She hesitated, and that flicker of guilt, just a flicker, confirmed everything. It wasn't just infidelity. It was a replacement. I wasn't losing my wife. I had already been replaced. And that's when something switched inside me. Not rage, something colder, sharper. I'd been blindsided, yes. But now I could see the game. "Fine," I said, voice level. "I'll pack a bag." She looked relieved. Maybe she expected tears or yelling. Instead, she got ice. Upstairs, I packed enough to last a week. But before I walked out, I took one detour to the basement. 2 years earlier, I'd installed a full security system in the house. Cameras, sensors, and encrypted cloud storage. Claire hated it, said it made her feel policed. 6 months ago, I disabled it to keep the peace. That night, I turned the entire system back on. She didn't notice. She was too busy checking her lipstick and glancing at her phone. "Good luck, Claire," I said at the door, looking her right in the eyes. She said something about not wanting to hurt me, about hope and healing and other emotional cliches. I nodded politely, walked out, and sat in my car just outside the house. I stayed for 27 minutes. Long enough to watch a sleek silver car pull into the driveway. Long enough to see a tall man in a tailored suit step out and wrap his arms around my wife. My house. My front porch. My wine. That night, I watched from a comfort inn, sipping cheap coffee and staring at live surveillance footage of my wife whining and dining another man. The same man I later learned who worked at her law firm. His name? Damon Westbrook. Harvard grad. Corporate lawyer. Married. And Claire wasn't just having an affair. She was plotting war. The next morning, the cameras caught audio. Damon in my kitchen, spreading jam on my toast. "Claire, I thought Adrian would fight harder." "Damon, you said he's passive-aggressive. Sounds like he's just passive." Claire, laughing, exactly. Always took the easy way. Easy to live with. Easy to leave. By midday, he had moved in. His shirt's in my closet. His toothbrush next to hers. But that wasn't the worst part. Claire was planning to accuse me of emotional abuse. A fabricated lie designed to get full control of the house, the finances, and any credibility I had left. That day, I called Felicia Rivera, one of the most feared family law attorneys in Seattle. She was smart, ambitious, and unrelentingly strategic. I showed her the footage, the recordings, and explained how I had installed the system and retained cloud access. After reviewing my files, Felicia just said, "She's not divorcing you. She's trying to destroy you. But she made a mistake." "What's that?" I asked. "She underestimated you." That night, while grabbing drinks with my friend Tyler, I mentioned Damon. Tyler froze. "You said Damon Westbrook?" "Yeah, I know that guy." Tyler leaned across the table. "He's been married for 5 years to Dr. Jenna Westbrook, pediatric oncologist. Amazing woman." Boom. Now I wasn't just dealing with betrayal. I had an ally. The next morning, I tracked down Dr. Jenna's social profiles, hospital pages, and professional records. I found her at a coffee shop near the hospital. She wore scrubs, her hair pulled back, reading patient notes with surgical focus. I approached her table quietly. "Dr. Westbrook? My name's Adrian. I think we need to talk about our spouses." She looked up, her face showing practiced patience until I showed her the footage. Claire and Damon, laughing, touching, planning. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She simply asked, "How long?" "About 3 months. He moved into my home the night Claire kicked me out." Jenna processed it all with the kind of eerie calm only a surgeon could manage. "I've had suspicions," she finally said, "but I didn't want to believe it." "We're not just victims," I said. "They're criminals. She wants to lie to destroy me. He's stealing time, betraying vows, and I think he's stealing something else too, money." Turns out, Jenna had access to their shared finances. Over the next week, she tracked expenditures, discrepancies, and found documentation of Damon embezzling funds from client holdings. We had enough to end them. Legally. Publicly. The following Tuesday, 1 week after Claire ended our marriage, Jenna and I executed our plan. She walked calmly into Damon's firm that morning with a thick folder in hand. Within 20 minutes, she was speaking to the firm's partners. 2 detectives joined her shortly after. At the same time, Felicia hand-delivered Claire her divorce papers, complete with evidence of perjury, a restraining order, and a complaint filed with the licensing board. I arrived last. By the time I entered the firm's lobby with my tablet in hand, I was just there to close the story. Damon was arrested on the spot for financial fraud, over $120,000 stolen from escrow accounts. Claire was terminated shortly after for conspiring in unethical legal actions. They didn't just lose their relationships. They lost their careers, their reputations, each other. That evening, I returned to my home, to peace, to silence, to something that finally felt like mine again. Claire tried calling, begged for forgiveness, sent long messages about mistakes and confusion and second chances. I never replied. 6 months later, Damon was disbarred and sentenced to prison. Claire was working in a mid-tier firm in Idaho, alone, starting over. And me, I rebuilt. My home was renovated, my heart was healing, and I'd met someone new, Lena, a fellow engineer with no tolerance for lies and a deep appreciation for honesty. It wasn't the future I imagined when I married Claire. It was better, because the opposite of love isn't hate. It's indifference. And by then, Claire didn't even warrant hatred. She was nothing more than a cautionary tale. I didn't destroy Claire's life. I simply let her face the consequences of her own choices. And in doing so, I reclaimed mine. If this story resonated with you, give it a like and hit subscribe for more stories of resilience, revenge, and redemption. I'll see you in the next one.